Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to Miss T.L.L today in his first additional language lessons. On today's lesson we are going to focus on creative writing, and we are going to look into what is it one needs to know and understand when writing an obituary. Now let us go through the notes quickly. An obituary is a text about a person who has recently died. It may be published as an article in a newspaper or read aloud at a funeral. Now an obituary gives basic facts of the deceased person's life, such as the person's birth date, the date of death, and where or she has lived. Details of the person's family may be also included. Stories and memories about the persons are included. If appropriate, favorite saying of the person may be quoted. The tone is sad because a person has died, but also uplifting because it is a celebration of a person's life. And then personal feelings about the deceased persons can be also included. But what is important is also to note what is that is needed when you write an obituary and what is not needed when writing an obituary. So I'm going to give you an example of an obituary. In essence, an obituary details or gives a timeline of a deceased, right, from the date of birth to schooling life, to university life, to work life, career life, family life, as well as paying tribute to the deceased. What does it mean when you pay tribute to the deceased? It means that you highlight the most important achievement, because remember, even though it's a sad moment, but it's also part of a celebratory moment where you document the most important events that happened in the deceased life. So what is important is to arrange them in a chronological order to avoid not having a coherent presentation of ideas, is to arrange them in a coherent manner, ensuring that the timeline, starting from the date of birth until the date of death, that you have covered all the important events. Now let us look into an example of an obituary that I have here, and then remember that when you write an obituary in paper 3, you'll be given a scenario. So always ensure that the obituary that you are writing is actually correlating with the scenario. For example, the scenario might be that an active member of the community who has served the community for the past 20 years has sadly departed. Write obituary about his life. So when you write obituary of his life, you'll remember the most important concept from the question is that he was an active member of the community. So in that obituary, I must be able to see that he was an active member of the community. So always ensure that you break down the question or the scenario from the question paper. What is it about that person that you need to highlight, especially when paying tribute to the deceased? Now let us look into an example. Right, so the scenario is that you have an active member of the community who has dedicated his life to serve the community. Now you have to write an obituary about that individual. Hence I say, please, it is important to always read the question in paper 3. What is that you need to include about the deceased? So when I teach obituary, I normally stress the importance of arranging facts chronologically. I know other teachers will just say, as long as the details are there in an obituary, even if they are mixed up, it doesn't matter. But for me, I believe that if you arrange them in a chronological order, meaning that starting with the date of birth, date of schooling, from schooling to career and so forth until the date of the departure, it gives you a bit of coherence, and there's that logical arrangement of ideas and facts in an obituary, and it's so easy to even trace where you may miss an important fact. So I would advise that for me, start and arrange them chronologically. What do we mean? In an opening paragraph, remember that obituary is written differently, right? So I'm giving you my way. You may have your teacher's way, and then maybe you'll just use your own discretion as a learner which one is best suitable for you, or the one that you think is easier to understand. So the first paragraph for me, it will have details of biographical information where you detail the deceased name. For example, here the deceased White was born on the 13th, 1977. In other obituaries, they may include also the date of death in the opening paragraph. For me, it is still accurate as well if you're to write it that way. So was born in 1987 at Karlsburg town, it's always important to also note the place where the deceased was born. And then he was the eldest daughter of the late Miriam and Pete Den. So biographical information, it means that it details the deceased date of birth, as well place of birth, and the parents, as well as whether he was the only child or the eldest or the youngest or the middle child. So that will encapsulate or the biographical information. So for me, paragraph 1, I will dedicate it to biographical information. And then the second paragraph, therefore, it will mean that schooling life. It will give schooling history from primary to secondary up until tertiary if the deceased went to tertiary. Remember, this is just creative writing. Sometimes the deceased might just have a matric and not have a university degree or diploma whatsoever. So the second paragraph I'll dedicate it to schooling life. The deceased started his primary school, and always the years are important. Remember, you are documenting someone else's timeline. So there's no way that you can say you are documenting a timeline in the absence of including the years. So the years are also always important. It's always important to state the years, because remember I said chronological arranging facts chronologically. It means that the years will indicate actually at which stage of life was the deceased and what is that he was doing at that particular time. So paragraph 2, the deceased started primary school at Lorry Primary School in 1984. In 1990, he went to Karolo High School, where he completed his matric in 1994. Can you see that? So I'm able to trace back that he started primary in 1984, and then in 1990 he went to secondary school. Of course, secondary school, it will start from grade 8 up until grade 12, and then only matriculated in 1994. So that means that you have closed the schooling life in as far as grade 1 up until grade 12 is concerned. Then the deceased furthered his studies at Northwest University Val campus and obtained a degree in sports science in 1997. Can you see every time I'm stating the years, because remember I'm documenting his timeline, and for you to document the timeline, I'm repeating the years must be there. So, and then at times I've seen learners who just say the deceased went to university without really mentioning the name of the university, without even mentioning the degree or the qualification that he obtained. So always please be detailed. Remember, you are noting the most important achievements and most important events of the deceased. So it's always important to not leave the readers with question marks to say, okay, he went to university and then what? Did he complete? Did he not complete? What is that he obtained at the university? So please make sure that you detail everything to the latter. The deceased furthered his studies at Northwest University Val campus and obtained a degree in sports science in 1997. So paragraph 2, that means that I'm done with schooling life. So in paragraph 3 now, that's why I will dedicate paragraph 3 to paying tribute to the deceased. Remember, when you pay tribute is when you highlight the deceased's most important achievements as well as his career. So paragraph 3, I would say you use paragraph 3 to document career life as well as paying tribute to the deceased. And when you pay tribute to the deceased, you go back to the question again. The question says that he was an important figure within the community. So that must also be part of the tribute, so that you can also know that you have successfully answered the question. Now, White started his coaching career. Now, I want to show you something here again with reference to writing. Remember, when we write, you are not only interested in having facts, but also the manner in which you outline your facts, that which is critical language learning skills. Remember, here I've started with the deceased. Again, I say here the deceased. So I don't want to sound redundant, where now every sentence I will say the deceased, the deceased. So here I just said White started his coaching career as an assistant sports coach at Maboneng Youth Center from 1999 to 2003. He served the community with integrity. Now here I'm paying tribute to the deceased. Remember, the question said that he was an active member of the community. So now here I'm including that here. He served the community with integrity and always uplifted the youth to excel in sports. Right? So I'm paying tribute to him by noting the most important things that he did for the community. And then additionally, remember I told you about the logical arrangement of using logical connectors to connect ideas. So because I still want to pay tribute to him and I still want to have more information, I will use the word additionally as a logical connector. In 2007, the deceased white established a community-based sports tournament for the youth. He was subsequently awarded Community Builder Award by the Department for Sports, Arts and Culture in 2006. This is a very beautiful paragraph where I have highlighted his career as well as paying tribute to him by highlighting his most important achievement. Now in paragraph 4, it will be up to you if you want your deceased to be married, but if you want the deceased to be married, also include it. In 2008, the deceased white entered into a holy matrimony with a blue white, and they were blessed with the 2 sons, Kate and Curry. So you just keep it short if your deceased was married. And then the late white then met his untimely demise on the 17th of August 2012 after battling a long illness. Now you need to be careful when you get to the last paragraph where you want to detail what really happened for this individual to depart or to depart this world. You need to use what you call euphemism. I believe in grade 12 it is part of term 1's language structure and convention. Euphemism, it's when you... Now, what do you mean by euphemism? As I've said, that it was part of the Term 1 language structure and convention as based on the annual teaching plan for grade 12. Euphemism is a mild expression substituted in a space of something that could have been said in a harsh tone, right? For example, if I don't want to say you are pregnant, I can say you are expecting. If I don't want to say that you have failed, which is much more harsh, I can say in using euphemism, I can say you are repeating, right? If I don't want to say you are jailed, I can say you went to a correctional service. Okay, so you must be careful when you get to the last paragraph. You don't need to detail. You must be sensitive to the deceased and the family. You don't need to give us the nitty-gritty details of what really happened, to say he was battling cancer, he also had lung cancer, it spread all over the body, and no, we don't need to hear that. You become very sensitive. That's why now you use language, to use euphemism to say he met his untimely demise, or departed this world after suffering from a short illness, or departed this world after suffering from a long or battling a long illness. You don't need to even give us the details of that illness, right? So please, when you get to this last paragraph, no need to go into details, because remember, you become sensitive to the deceased as well as the family. The late white met his untimely demise on the 17th of August 2012 after battling a long illness. And then there's after stating that we need to know who he leaves behind, or in also alternatively, you can also state, for example, in the opening paragraph, he says that he was born from the late. So we can also state those who have already departed before him, and then, or you can state who he leaves behind. So I've opted to state, to mention who he leaves behind. He leaves behind his lovely wife, 2 sons, and 2 younger siblings. He will forever be remembered for his dedication and zeal for change within the community. May his soul rest in eternal peace. And then what is also important here, the last thing that you need to do is to include the family funeral arrangement. The funeral will be held as follows. Just include the date, venue, and time, and that is how you write an obituary. Remember, what is important is to note the question, what is that the person has done, so that you can include that as part of your tribute. What you have learned from today's lesson is that you arrange your facts. Like I've said that I know in other schools, teachers will just say as long as the facts are there, even though they may not be arranged chronologically. But my argument is that when you arrange them chronologically, it establishes what we call coherence in your writing. So the first paragraph you dedicate it to your biographical information. The second paragraph is your schooling information. The third paragraph is your career, as well as your the paying tribute. The paying tribute part is very important, and for you to know that you have paid tribute, go back to the question to see what is that the person is what kind of a person are we writing about? Are we writing about an active member of the community? Are we writing about a dedicated teacher? Are we writing about maybe an artist? Are we writing about... So from the question, you'll be able to note the kind of person that we are writing about, and then you then pay creatively, you pay tribute to the deceased. And then optionally, the deceased can also be married. And then the last paragraph, that's when now you detail, not, again I'm repeating, not giving the nitty-gritty details about the deceased, but using what you call euphemism, right, to state the cause of death, and lastly also including the funeral arrangement. Then there's also one thing that I need to state. There's what we call totems in our culture, in African cultures, right? Totems. What do you mean by a totem? A totem is a natural object or animal that is believed by a particular society to have a spiritual significance that is adopted, right? For an example, in my culture, as a Motswana, you can say ke morolong or ke motlhaping, where o ana tlhapi, where o mokolobeng. A pig will resemble be associated with a particular part of a clan and whatsoever. Unfortunately, totems cannot be translated in English. So don't find yourself writing an obituary and assuming that you want to now have the same obituary that you will write in African language, in our African languages, and now you want to translate that into English by including totems. So there's no way that you can include a totem in English. For example, when you can say, if you say omoklaping, clapping, it's a fish. So now you can say rest in peace fish. You get it now. You get it now. I know it sounds very humorous, right? But please refrain from using totems. Totems are cultural and language bound. That's what we mean by language dialects, right? Language dialects are not the same from your African languages to English. So in English, don't include totems. So in essence, that's how you write. Not forgetting that when you write, please start with the process writing steps. Always include your mind map, your first draft where you read, you edit, proofread, and now translate whatever that you have edited and corrected into the final version. And I also made a reference, if not highlighted, how I presented my ideas. Your ideas need to flow. You must also pay attention to critical language awareness. I've stated that. For an example, you don't need to start your sentences, all of them, to say the deceased, the deceased. You're going to sound very redundant. Just imagine an obituary that is going to be read, and every time the person starts a sentence saying the deceased, the deceased. So you need to find a way where you can play around with language in such a way that your sentences will rather flow. And then secondly, not forgetting the use of logical connectors, especially where you still want to have additional information. For an example, here in paragraph 3, we have used the word additionally. So I hope this was a fruitful lesson in preparation for your writing of paper 3 in term 3. You'll be able to also tackle the question of writing of an obituary. Thank you. Stay tuned. Subscribe, share the link, and stay tuned for more lessons.